Good morning. Welcome to the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show, brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding. I'm your host, Harvey Freed, alongside of me, Becky Alley.
What is going on, everybody? I'm pretty pumped up this morning. All the 4 shots of espresso are hitting my bloodstream.
We have a huge show, and I'll let you introduce the guest.
Oh, my God. We're so excited. Elvis is in the building. We got Mr. Justin Ford from EXP. I mean, listen, when I've met you, it was like an instant connection, right? And everyone has amazing things to say about you. But more importantly, I used to think that I had a lot of things going on. And then I started following you more closely on socials. And dude, you're everywhere.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, my God. So let's just talk about a couple of things, right? So you got a book coming out,
Yep.
Unleashed, right? We're going to definitely get into that. You got a podcast. You're a coach on Glover U, which we're definitely going to dip into that. I'm curious on how that relationship, when you're technically competitors, comes in. I think I heard that you're like sponsored by Cadillac somewhere in the middle of all that. And then not to mention you're a mega producing agent, but then you're a really good person and you're humble. And the humility that just exudes from you is, it's really impressive.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm definitely super busy and have a lot going on, but I'm having a great time. It's been fun.
All right.
Yes.
Becky set me up with all this ahead of time. All the realtors saw you coming on the show, and they said, hey, this is going to be a great show, Harvey. And we thought we were going to talk only about the book and coaching and all that. But, of course, we're going to talk about buying and selling real estate. And we'll take some calls, too, if you want to call in. 248-539-9797. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. You can catch Becky and I at Capital Mortgage all week long at 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker. Justin Ford, EXP Realty. That's been exploding. And just let's dive into the market a little bit. The real talk of the town, it's been for the last years. This pandemic brought on some crazy urgency to get yourself a house. And of course, Becky, as you know, these interest rates drop down. The inventory's been the issue. What do you see things here halfway through the summer? What does it look like here in Southeast Michigan?
Yeah, it's been crazy. I've been selling real estate now as an agent for 9 years, and I've been primarily on the listing side. And so the last 2 years has been crazy from a listing aspect, right? We've obviously seen a lot of buyers, not a lot of houses, a lot of competition. And we knew at some point, kind of like what you're talking, Becky, out there was going to be a shift at some point happening. And so when interest rates started to go up, I think people started to panic. Obviously, interest rates are up, gas prices are up, inflation, all of these things. I think it's the tendency for people to kind of pull back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And we've seen a slowdown, I'd say, probably for a month where we weren't seeing, 100 offers coming in on houses. We weren't seeing everything crazy. But then recently, over the last couple of weeks, we've seen things pick back up again. Last weekend, I had 4 listings that had multiple offers on them. And it wasn't just like a lower price point. I had, higher price point listings as well. So I think buyers realize, okay, this is where we're at. This is the new reality. And when people still need homes, they're still going to have to go out and buy them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are selling something that's a necessity. It's not a luxury. I mean, people need affordable housing and things like that. And this like little break that you were talking about, I described it as you're going somewhere 1,000 miles an hour, and it was like someone pumped the brake, right? Took a breath. But then you go right back up to 1,000 miles an hour, right? Yep. Everyone kind of took a minute to assess the situation, but you're talking about there's real serious buyers out there right now and sellers. And the buyers right now, most of them, they've written an offer or two, and they're starting to, what I'm seeing on our side, because obviously we handle the buyer transaction, is the buyers are more savvy. Right. They are also looking for a deal, and they're not willing just to give it all away to the sellers.
Yeah, and I think, too, a lot of the buyers, what we saw is the first-time home buyers, the people who were trying to get in the market for the first time, kept getting beat out on, offers. And, they didn't have maybe a $50,000 to bring above asking price. Maybe they didn't have, all these different things they could do. I've seen those buyers now get back into the market because they pulled back for a while because they just – who wants to write offers on 10, 20 houses and continue to get beat? And so I think there's an uptick in those buyers coming back in the market.
Like I was thinking, okay, like you're a first-time home buyer, right? And you think your whole life, okay, I'm going to buy this house and all I need is 10 to 15,000 maybe max to buy a house. And then you entered that market about 2 years ago, year and a half ago. You're like, oh my God, I really need like 30,000. And that's the part that was unsustainable.
Right.
The rates aren't going to affect the buyers other than if that extra $100 in your payment pushes you out of that price point, well, then you need to back down what you're buying.
Yep.
But it was the 30, 40, 50,000 over asking that was completely unsustainable. It's never going to be the rates.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was crazy. Even on the listing side, I sold a house earlier in the year for $90,000 over the asking price. We had 100 showings, 32 offers. And it's like, yeah, the one buyer was excited that they got the house, but you had 31 other buyers who were like, oh, and I got to go do this again on another house. And then I have a small chance that my offer is going to get accepted. And it's like, it's been hard to be a buyer.
It's been sort of interesting to watch. A lot of families come up with that, additional money. It's a significant amount of money. We've seen it on the minimal side, 10 to 20,000. But
Right.
yes, we've seen it 50 to 100,000.
Crazy.
The basement's finished. It might not show on an appraisal. It's got maybe the pool in the backyard, which you can't get your hands on a pool or
Right.
get someone to build one for a year and a half. Other reasons why it's checking all these other boxes, and families are saying, you know what? Based on the market, the inventory, and if they did overpay, just no problem. Maybe 2 years ago they thought they overpaid. That house is starting to look like they made a good buy on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like me and my wife bought a house a couple of years ago, and I thought, man, I missed out on the equity and all this stuff. And it's crazy to see what our home is worth, just 2 years later compared to where it was 2 years ago. And so, I think regardless, if you're looking at should I buy a home or should I rent, I mean, it's always better to own an asset, than to pay for somebody else's asset.
Yeah, if you're renting, like I preach on this, if you're renting, you're paying 100% interest.
Right.
So what does it matter if you're paying 6.25%? And to be honest with you, when I bought my first house in 2006, guess what the rate was? Exactly where the rates are right now, around 6.25%. And that was supposed to be my 5-year house turned into my 10-year house, whatever. But I held on to it, and opportunities to refinance came around. I bought another house, 2018. At the time, the lowest rate I could get was 4.875. That was in 2018. We all know what happened in 2020, 2021. The point that we're making here is that you're dealing with experienced people, and we've
Right.
seen the cycles, we've seen the shifts, and this isn't a time where you freeze, right? Because that's what happens. You
Right.
either there's an opportunity where you can really step in and stand out amongst the competition versus if you freeze, you don't do anything,
Right.
you're going to you're priced out. Even rent right now, rent is going up. So what are you going to do? Are you investing in yourself, or are you going to invest in someone else's mortgage? I don't know.
Always the psychology of the transaction and what's
Yeah.
involved on it. The fear of missing out was
Right.
part of it. The low interest rates, people
time.
wanted to get in.
Yep.
Where is 2022 going to end up? I think where it's at right now,
Yeah.
families are going to try to sneak in here before the school year starts. So I
Right.
think we will get that rush. End of July, August,
Yep.
of course, getting some kids into school. And then the fall's been a great time to buy. And maybe more and more families this year with that winter coming up might put their homes on their marketplace, maybe more inventory.
Yeah, I think, going back to what you were saying, Becky, because you and I kind of got into this industry around the same time. I
Yeah.
remember back in 2005, 6.25 was like the best rate you
Yeah.
could get. And if you could get 6.25, you were happy.
Yep.
That's when, you had the adjustable rate and the subprime stuff where you're like 7, 8%, 9%. So to get 6.25 was amazing. And I think it was on Instagram or Facebook, I saw that one post where it showed the interest rates over the last 30 years. And yeah, we've been spoiled with, 3% rates, even below 3% rates for the last year and a half. But when you look at the last 30 years, I mean, I can't believe back in the 80s, they were paying 18%
Yeah.
interest rate. And so even where we are today, a 6.25 rate is still not a bad rate when you just look at the last 20, 30 years. And I think where we are right now is we're getting back to more of a balanced market.
For sure.
That's
And
it.
like we even laugh about like Harry, like when you said he was going to take auditions at the Senior Citizen Center, about, because I bring up my grandma all the time. My grandma, like she's a gangster, but she laughs like when, she hears people getting upset over where the interest rate, she's so Southern, but she's like, I paid 18%, and it's true, but it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
And, if you can afford your payment at a $200,000 house. I mean, when the rates were the lowest they were, it was people were buying homes. Probably they were overextending themselves
Right.
because it gave them a lot of buying power. Well,
Right.
now it's shifting to being a little bit more realistic on what they're be able to afford. But,
Yep.
I say like you need to rate test your budget,
Right.
right? Because you're talking about there's rumors of another, the Fed, on Wednesday, they're meeting again, et cetera. They've already alluded to it's going to be another 75 basis points. And
Right.
to kind of educate you guys, for every 25 basis points, when you hear that, it affects an interest rate by an eighth. So that's 0.125, right? So
Yep.
you're talking about possibly 375, right?
Well,
But anyway, if you can test your budget to the rate, then you can afford the payment. So
Right.
if you're looking at $100, $150 more, then you're good. But that's where your experienced mortgage professional is having these conversations with you in advance. So that way, when you're meeting with someone like Justin on his listing, he's looking at that pre-approval with confidence, knowing this loan's going to close.
Oh, yeah, little sunny skies out there. Definitely rates have dropped just a little bit
Hints,
better than
yeah.
they were maybe in the last 3 weeks. Again, they do bounce around a little bit. Keep it here on 97.1 The Ticket. We got tons of information. Justin Ford, eXp Realty, 248-539-9797. We'll be right back. There we go. Welcome back to the show, 916. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show brought to you by Capital Mortgage Funding. We are powered by Fairway Independent Mortgage Corporation, NMLS 2289, Equal Housing Lender. As I mentioned, we got Becky Ellie to my right. I'm Harvey Freed. In the best, Justin Ford, eXp Realty. Justin, we can dive into some other things too. Let's go with that educational thing. I like we've had Jeff on the show in the past, and he's a voice here in Southeast Michigan, and you are too. And there's a lot of these top agents. You guys, the top 10%, are teaching a lot of the young realtors, building some great teams. Tell me a little bit about the education that goes in it and how you see that fit for the up and coming new realtors.
Yeah. Education is so important, especially, in this market. When I got into real estate back in 2013, I actually joined Jeff Glover's team. And my wife and I, who's in the studio, when I got my real estate license, we said, where do we want to go, learn how to sell real estate? And, I always said, in order to be the best, you got to learn from the best. So I joined Jeff's team back in 2013, and Jeff said, listen, if you follow the system and the process that I teach, he said, you'll be super successful. And what I loved about going to work for Jeff was there was a sales system and process that I learned from day one. And I did that for 3 years. I worked with Jeff for 3 years. And so what Jeff did was he just created a coaching platform called Glover U, because Jeff was already known as the #1 real estate team in Michigan. He's with Keller Williams. So all the Keller Williams people around the country knew who he was, and oftentimes would call on Jeff to come teach. And so when Jeff started Keller Williams, Glover U, it was 3 years after I had already left that we kind of partnered back up together, and he brought me on as a coach and trainer and speaker. And I actually teach agents all over North America how to prospect, because that's been my niche. That's what Jeff taught me from day one, was how to prospect, how to pick up the phone, how to go out and find sellers. And I did that, really well. I sold 100 homes my first year with Jeff. I took 30 listings my first month in the business. And so
that's impressive.
They labeled me as the prospecting king, because I followed this system and I did it really well. And so he brought me back. We kind of partnered back together through Glover U, and he brought me in to then teach agents how to do the same thing. And so basically the system I've followed since I got into real estate, I now teach real estate agents over a 16-week period of how to go out and how to take more listings.
I love that. So, what I'm hearing is, and it's such a common theme right now, it's collaboration over competition. So the fact that you're with totally different agencies, it doesn't matter. And the fact that you, give him his due for him laying that foundation and, giving you that foundation that you now stand on, but allow you to be successful. Let me put this in perspective for our listeners, okay? So 40% of agents out there have not sold a home this year.
Right.
Okay, so you're talking in his first year, he took 30 listings.
No, first month.
First month. Oh, first month. Okay, first month. Okay, that's my fault. So first month, you're talking about 30 listings. That is beyond impeccable numbers in a very tough market at that time, even, as far as, because we've seen it all. So I love that. And where do you guys do the Glover U? Is it just in one location or...
That's a great question. And just even to go back to what you were saying about, competition, I'm with eXp, Jeff's with Keller Williams.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you think of gang wars, you have the Bloods and the Crips. It's like that, right? You got eXp and Keller Williams. They're just like this rivalry in a sense, all jokes aside. But my office and Jeff's office is less than a mile from each other. So we are going on the same listing appointments, going against each other with competition. We're calling the same sellers. We're competing in the same market, and yet we still work together. Because one thing, when Jeff started Glover U, a lot of people thought, well, why would he go out and teach everything he knows to all of the local agents and create competition? And Jeff's mindset has always been an abundant mindset, because we can either have a scarcity mindset or we can have an abundance mindset. And Jeff's mindset always was that there's enough to go around for everybody. And so if I can help other agents be successful, it just makes our industry that much better. And so, Glover U is based out of our corporate office. Our main office is out of Birmingham. So Jeff has Plymouth and Birmingham. Mm-hmm. But a lot of what we do is we go on tour. We're actually just coming off of a 45-city tour where we've been touring all over North America, getting ready for our event coming up next month in Traverse City called the Glover U Retreat. And then we also have one in January called the Glover U Summit in Orlando. But a lot of what we do is online. So we do a lot of our group coaching on Zoom. We do a lot of our coaching sessions, obviously, through Zoom or on the phone. And so a lot of what we do is virtual.
That's
I
awesome.
think you guys hit more cities than Elton John, but it's close.
It's
So
pretty-
we'll
yes,
check
I
it
think it
out.
is pretty close.
57% of realtors cited that the lack of inventory, according to the National Association of Realtors, was really the reason why a lot of the transactions didn't take place.
Yeah.
Because they just couldn't get an offer accepted. With that being said, you said an abundance of homes. Oh, yeah. Last year, 6.12 million existing homes sold. That was the most since 2006. That's a huge number.
Yep.
Are we seeing those type of numbers at the beginning of this year? It looks pretty good, but not quite last year.
Yeah, it's interesting. The statistic is, a lot of times mindset is the thing that dictates whether someone's going to be successful in this business or not. And we have a saying at Glover U, it's what we do that creates our success, not the market, right? So a lot of times when the market's shifting, Becky, you just said 40% of agents have not, sold a home this year. Well, there's another statistic that says next year 25 to 35% of agents are going to be out of the business. And the reason why is because a lot of times agents are not following a proven plan to go out and to take more business. And I have a saying that I always say is, if you're not making the amount of money that you want to make and you're not closing the amount of transactions that you want to close, the answer is simple. You're just not talking to enough people. You're not getting in front of enough potential prospects, to have conversations with about real estate. And so whether it's a down market, whether it's a market that's great, to me, I've always been pretty consistent with my numbers. I sell 100 plus homes a year, because I'm going to go out and make it happen. I'm going to go out and do the work. I'm not going to sit back and wait for the phone to ring. I'm going to go out and initiate the conversation. We also say real estate is a contact sport. If it's a contact sport, that means you got to be in the game.
Yeah, and I love that. My saying is losers react, winners anticipate.
Yep.
Okay, and we're in a market where there is some shifting happening. And what I love so much about you and what you stand for is you're not above it all. You're literally boots on the ground. So the things that you're saying to people, you're living, you're doing, you're preaching, you're teaching. And that's better than what we had when we got in the business, right? You even started on the mortgage side. Some people don't know that.
Right.
And the things that you see in the experience and you flip over to the real estate side, it makes you one of the most well-rounded real estate agents out there, because you know what's going on and you know the market, but you've also identified that right now this is the time where I can really, clean house because other people are not hustling because all they know is a good market.
Yeah. In this market right now, especially where we're heading, I mean, we're seeing it, expired listings. There's more expireds today than there was even 2 months ago. So there's a lot of opportunity out there for the agents that want to go after it. And when a market's shifting, that just means there's more opportunities, right? Whereas a lot of people, if they don't understand that, they take that scarcity mindset. They're afraid. They don't know what to do. And that's why it's so important to be plugged in with an organization like Glover U, where you can plug in and know what's going on. I mean, even back in COVID.
Hey, look, I'm going to make Jeff pay for this show if you keep dropping his name anymore.
During COVID, we all had no clue what was going to happen, right? I mean, I had 10 deals fall out of escrow because of, people were getting furloughed, jobs were being, lost. And, I remember at Glover U, we took the reins, and Jeff's, came on and did a webinar and had all the agents come on and said, this is exactly what you need to do right now in order not only to get through COVID, to be out, but to be out in front when this lifts. And all the agents that did that were way out ahead of the ones that kind of got afraid and just pulled back. What's the same thing in this market? If agents are willing to plug in, learn what they need to do, take the steps necessary, you're going to not just survive this shift, but you're going to thrive through the shift.
Again, this is why everyone loves Justin, because the humility. You're on the show and you're already promoting somebody else and what they have been doing, but at the same time, but their moment of shining is also your moment of shining. So you're talking about scarcity. So what do you say to someone, because you're talking about there's a lot of doomsday, things like that. What are you saying to someone that's like, you know what, I'm going to wait to sell, or I'm going to wait to buy until after this crash supposedly happens?
Yeah, well, we have no clue what tomorrow holds, right? We have no clue what 6 months from now holds. I remember, people 2 years ago who were saying, I'm going to wait to buy until things slow down.
Yeah.
Well, I was one of those people 2 years ago that said, I'm going to buy because I want to buy a new home for my family. And our equity, it's gone up 30% in 2 years. So it's like, what if I would have waited 2 years? Or the people that said 2 years ago, I'm just going to wait. Well, if you waited, it costs more to buy a house, right? Because even if interest rates were still where they were 3 months ago, prices went up.
Yep.
Competition went up. You paid more for a house this year than you would have last year or 2 years ago. And so if you're looking to sell right now and you've got equity and you have a place to go, why not sell and take your equity, right? And if you want to buy, again, we talked about this earlier, you're either going to pay 100% interest renting from somebody else, or you can buy an asset. And even if the interest rate is a little bit higher than where it was 3 months ago, at least you own it. Every payment you're sending in, it's yours. It's not, you're not paying for somebody else's asset.
Yeah, I say like you're looking for your forever home, not your forever loan, right?
Exactly.
And you're absolutely right. Like those people, they're like, I'm going to wait till the rates go down to zero. Well, guess what? They did not go to zero, and you stepped into much higher interest rates and a tougher market. So if it makes sense for you now, pull the trigger and be confident. Get pre-approved. Let us pull your credit and take a look at it.
All right, we got tons of great stuff. Real estate, mortgages, a whole lot more. 248-539-9797. Keep it here. All righty, welcome back to the show, 932. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show brought to you by Capital Mortgage. We are broadcasting live here. You can call in 248-539-9797. Yes, all my boating friends out there. We watch the weather, Becky. You know how we do this.
I do watch the weather like an old person.
We have a lot of boaters here in Michigan. I'm one of them.
Brings me peace.
And we're inviting family and friends out on the boats and watching the weather reports. I don't know, folks. It looks like the sun is going to peak out here in southeast Michigan. And hang in there. It looks like it might come out at 2 o'clock.
I don't know. My hair is going to be an afro puff either way because the humidity is real. It's real.
Definitely a little sticky. But hey, always Justin Ford, a great time to go out and look at a house. Reconnect with your real estate agent. Reconnect with your lender and make sure that you're off and running. Just in the break we were just talking about, sure, the rates went up and they scared some people out of the ballpark, but there's no doubt that if you go out for dinner tonight, and it's so true, a couple goes out for dinner. If you go out for a casual dinner, not even the best dinner,
right,
but a really nice one, all these great restaurants here in Metro Detroit, it's $120, $150 a couple if you only have one drink.
Yeah, all day. And again, I think a lot of times people just get the sticker shock and just look at the interest rate and not really looking at what the payment is, right? And, when you really look at the difference of, depending on where you're pre-approved at, what your pre-approval would be at 3% versus 6%, yes, it's going to go up. But a lot of times, whether it's the new iPhone or the new Android or, we're willing to go out and just, throw money around for this, that, or the other. And there's really no return on our investment, right? But when we do it for a house, even if we're paying a little bit more, it's our house. And it's an asset. Again, we talked about that earlier. And so I think it's just shifting the mindset a little bit.
I definitely agree. Like, it's perspective, right? And how you're looking at things. And it's always blown my mind how people will not hesitate to pay whatever on their credit cards or get whatever they're going to do. But yet an interest rate, goes up a 0.5% or 8%, and there's a hesitation, and it's you're literally, it's like a $50 difference, right? So we're in an environment that you can really have success right now as a buyer, right? And this is an environment that I love, right? Because I feel like a tougher environment sometimes brings out the best in somebody, right?
Yep.
And speaking of that, I want to bring up your book, because not every day do we have a real estate agent that is going to be or is a published author. So I want our listeners, again, you guys can call in. You got Justin Ford. Do not miss opportunity to pick his brain, 248-539-9797. But let's talk about your book. It's Unleashed. Where did that title come from? And is this book for real estate? Can anyone really take something from it? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so the book is called Unleashed, 7 Key Principles to Breaking Free and Breaking Through. If you know me, you know my story, but probably most of you that are listening don't know my story. So, I'm 39. But I grew up in a broken home, got into a lot of trouble as a teenager. A lot of it was peer pressure, made a lot of poor decisions. I was an honor roll student in school. I had dreams and goals. My grandfather was an attorney. He told me if I just stay out of trouble, I could get my law degree and I could join his law firm. And, between the ages of 17 and 19, I met this girl and just started kind of going off the deep end. Like a lot of young people do, teenagers, you experiment a little bit with peer pressure. Maybe you smoke a little weed, drink a little bit of alcohol. But for me, it just kind of went left field. And so between the ages of 17 and 19, I acquired 8 misdemeanors and a felony, all drug and alcohol related, sold drugs to an undercover cop, 2 drunk drivings. One was a drunk driving accident, almost lost my life. And my life just began to literally spiral downwards. I was on drugs. I was selling drugs. And it was dropped out of high school, got a girl pregnant when I turned 18. And I remember almost like looking at where I was just a few years previous to where I was in that moment. I'm like, how did this all happen? I was arrested 13 times, got beat up by the police. And I remember, my life had spiraled, so far out of control that, drugs had really grabbed a hold of me. And I remember getting arrested one time in Royal Oak for drunk and disorderly. I was up over 24 hours, high on drugs. I got kicked out of a vehicle because I was creating a conflict with somebody that I was driving around with at 7:30 in the morning without sleeping. Got picked up over on Woodward by the Royal Oak police, and they took me in. And I was just so delusional, so dehydrated. My life got so low that they wouldn't give me any water to drink, and I thought I was going to die. And so I literally drank water out of a toilet in jail just to stay hydrated and stay alive.
Wow.
And you would think that moment there would have been a change. But I continued down this path.
So that even wasn't even your bottom.
That wasn't even my bottom. You would think it would be,
Get me
right?
to the success story here. Come on now.
Yeah. And so after that, the thing that really did it was I got into a drunk driving accident. I was Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, 2002. was partying.
Was
You
it
know,
at the Rio Bravo?
It was at the Rio Bravo. Yep.
That's where everyone used to go.
Yep, Rio Bravo in Taylor, and I was working there, and I
Trouble for dropping that name.
yeah.
They're not even around anymore. I don't
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Thank
So
goodness.
I was actually drinking on the job, and I guess I was consuming a lot of alcohol very fast, and apparently was drinking margaritas in the parking lot with customers, and I don't even remember it. I was 19 years old. They fired me, and that morning I was just trying to get my life together. So I just moved back in with my mom. I just started going to church, and she gave me the keys to her car, and she said, "Justin, I trust you. Don't let me down." So I took her car, went to Rio Bravo. It was a big party, so I got consumed with the temptation and pressure. So I started drinking. By early afternoon, I was completely blacked out and intoxicated, jumped in my mom's car, went downtown to party. And the next thing I knew, I was standing next to a state police officer on the side of the freeway, looking at my mom's car smashed into the wall. Oh, boy. I blew a .21, which was 3 times the legal limit. And at this point, I was already on a restricted driver's license from my last drunk driving, and I was on probation in 4 cities. And one of them was a felony because I sold ecstasy to an undercover cop. And so, it was not looking good for me. And so I remember praying in that jail, because I'm like, this is not good. I said, but God, if you'll give me a second chance and you'll let me out of here, I'll go into this treatment center out in Pontiac called the Grace Centers of Hope. It's a faith-based treatment center, and I'll go check myself in there. And I went before the judge, and they let me out. I didn't even have to pay a bond. They looked at my record, and they let me out. And I'm like, okay, jumped on a smart bus, took it to Pontiac, and checked into this program.
For you, man.
Where I was there about 4 to 5 months, and my life was changed. I became a Christian. It changed my life, and I just went on this journey for the last 20 years of taking my story and inspiring people and encouraging people. I've been a motivational speaker. I speak in high schools to kids, sharing my story.
Yes.
I've spoken in churches, spoken all around. So I wrote this book, and the main theme of my life and even this book is it's not how you start. What matters is how you finish.
Oh my God, so true.
And with God, all things are possible. And I think a lot of times, we've all been through things in our life, and there could be even some people listening right now who are going through some things. Those things don't define you. Right? Those things don't define you. And I think a lot of times people get so caught up in the mistakes that they've made or the struggles that they have, and they just throw in the towel. Mm-hmm. And I could have done that. And a lot of people are ashamed of their story. We all have a story. We all have something to share with people. And what I just decided to do was take my story and use it to inspire and help people. And so I wrote this book where I tell my story, because people always say, Justin, how did you go from drinking out of a toilet, selling drugs to an undercover cop, to being as successful as you are today? And so in my book, Unleashed, I share the 7 key principles of how I broke free and broke through, and I'm here today.
That's awesome. That's a lot. That's a lot to unpack there. And the fact that you're so transparent about it, and a lot of people hesitate, because you're right, everyone does have a story, but most people are not so candid to share such rock bottom moments. And the fact that you're willing to take that and share it with someone, because it is going to touch somebody. Right? Whether it's 100 people or one person. And the reality is that I do agree with something that you said. If you begin with the end in mind, right? How would you behave? What would you do? Right? What do you want to leave behind for your family? Right. And I'm big on, even with home ownership, right? And how it applies, right? Yep. You're worthy of success now,
Absolutely.
right? Not because you need more money in the bank or you have a real estate team. Right. If you start right now with the end in mind and you just push it all away, you're going to have that success that you deserve.
Yeah.
Becky, it's just like that client with the bad credit, When we come back, let's talk about this. We're bringing that all full circle. 248-539-9797. Mortgages, real estate, and a whole lot more. Keep it here. Hey, dude, you want to tell your story? You did good, man.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. Alrighty, welcome back to the show. 9:45. It's the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate and Business Show in our 23rd year. Hopefully giving a lot of you folks some great information over 23 years. I hope so, Becky.
Yeah, that's a long time.
I'm Harvey Freed. She's Becky Yaley. She's top 1% of all loan originators in the United States, and that's Justin Ford. eXp Realty has been really candid and transparent this morning, telling them
It's refreshing.
it is, and he's telling us about some great stories and success, and we always run into this in our business. You know, people that might not have a good situation now, Becky, but we can help change that. And we start with credit, employment, and sometimes good people have some bad things happen to them.
Yeah, sometimes bad things happen to good people, and it's how you react to that, right? Whether it's personally or financially. So I know you wanted to touch on something that is relatable to someone that's out there because we see it on someone's credit, right?
Yep. So even after I got my life together, you know, with what we just talked about, you know, my wife and I got married. We've been married now it'll be 17 years this year. You know, right after we got married, you know, we bought a house, subprime option R, or not option R, but it was one of the ARMs, and we're just all excited. And then the market crashes. And so being in the mortgage business, we went from six figures to no figures overnight and lost everything. We lost our house to foreclosure, went through bankruptcy, all of our cars to repossession, and I felt stuck, right? We felt stuck, right? Because we had to go through this period of time to get our credit back in order to buy. And so we rented for 10 years. And so, you know, it wasn't until 2 years ago that we had bought a house for the second time. And a part of me, there was some ego there. I'm like, man, I'm 37, just now owning a home again and really having an asset. But I realized that it was the greatest investment we've made, especially with our equity where it is today. And so for those that are listening right now, it's never too late. And it's always better to be an owner than a renter, period.
Yeah, you can start over 47,000 times.
Yep.
No one cares. If you're going down a path that doesn't work for you, whether it's personally, financially, whatever it is, you can start over again. You can totally change your
Always.
direction. And with credit criteria, you know, we look at people's credit. We take a lot of pride in finding and identifying those things. And if you had a foreclosure, yes, if you're trying to get into a conventional mortgage, you would have to wait 7 years. But FHA allows you to do it as soon as 3.
Right.
So there's different programs, different vehicles for every person. You can't compare your situation to my situation, Harvey's situation, Justin's situation. Everybody is different.
Yep.
FHA loans are a great loan, a great tool to use to get into home ownership after a situation like that. Becky, the loan limit is $420,680. That's a huge loan limit. This isn't a loan for a first-time home buyer necessarily. There's no sign on your outside of your house that says you have an FHA mortgage or a USDA loan or a VA or a conventional loan. Get the mortgage, get the house. Renters out there have had it, you know, already. If the rent didn't go up already, it's going to go up. Your landlord's going to want a few more bucks for it. Yep. Why? I don't know. Maybe they got a funky mortgage. Maybe they owe money and things aren't working out for them. But a lot of these renters, too, over the years, they've come into me and said, boy, they come in and they say, Harvey, my gas bill in the winter, there's no insulation in this rental.
Yep.
So they're spending additional money on some other things. Not only that, they don't have sense of community. They're missing out on all that great stuff. Sense of community, building appreciation, all those great things.
Yep. Well, I think even, you know, when it comes to credit, right, there's so many people who don't understand credit.
Yes.
It costs you more money to have bad credit than it does to have good credit. And, you know, even for people who aren't religious, the Bible is just a great book with a lot of good information in it. And there's a verse in the Bible that says people perish for the lack of knowledge, right? And think about how many people out here are, in a sense, perishing or not benefiting from home ownership or having a great credit score because they just don't know.
Yep.
They don't know the knowledge of getting their credit in order, building it up to a point where you can qualify for the best rate, where you can own a home, where you can pay less on a car loan and all these things. And so to me, you know, for those that are out there, you know, having a hard time because their credit is not in order, it's never too late to start right now, because in 6 months and a year from now, that's going to come whether your credit stays the same or whether it gets better. You might as well work to get it better so you can purchase a home.
1,000%. Let's talk about some knowledge here, right? So it all starts with a conversation. And we feel that if you're thinking about buying a home, you cannot start the conversation sooner. And this is something that I hear all the time. I don't want you to pull my credit, Becky. I don't want a hard hit. It's going to make my credit score drop. Let me just hit you with some knowledge, everybody. That credit inquiry is literally, so picture a pie and there's 100% in that pie. That credit inquiry affects you less than 1%. Less
Like
than
a
1%.
piece of the crust falls
yes,
off of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Less than 1% is going to be affected by your score. Not only, let's just say you had someone else pull your credit, you have 45 days to have someone else look at your scenario. So if you're not enjoying or you don't feel that your current mortgage lender is working for you, you can call us at Capital Mortgage Funding to get a second opinion. It's just a conversation. What really hurts your score and what Justin was alluding to is not making the payments.
Right.
The payment history, that's
Yep.
35% of that
35.
pie is the biggest criteria, right? Then the other one is how you are extended. If you have a balance of, let's just say your credit limit is $3,000, but now your credit limit, you have your balance over at $3,010, that $10 that went over your credit limit, that is going to kill your scores. But you don't know that unless you're having these conversations.
We also got the Mr. loans out there. They start at 640 credits. So if your credit's below that and you need some down payment assistance, not every down payment assistance requires higher credit scores, but 640, we can get you there. You know, that's just a number that's obtainable. It takes usually 2 lines of credit. If you have a car loan and a credit card that you're paying on time for over 12 months, that's a great way to start getting those secured credit cards, getting those gas cards. Look, you're going to be putting $60 to $100 in your tank every time you fill up now. All right, if you're doing it once a week, that's 60 times 4, 240. When that bill comes, get that credit card, get that gas card. When that bill comes at the end of the month, you don't have to pay the 18% interest. You can pay it all off in full, and that's a great way to build credit. We got all sorts of tricks and ways to get you, your credit score up and put some money in your pocket for home ownership. Just give us a call, and of course, you can reach out at Capital Mortgage Funding at 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker here locally, or across the country at 1-800-3-LOW-RATE if you're looking to get in touch with us anywhere else in the country.
We are a national lender.
We are a national lender.
Yep.
And of course, Beck, let's just jump in real quick with some other great stuff that's going on. We'll go back to Justin real quick. We got vacation homes. Boy, the calls are starting to light up. Families are going up north. They want a piece of it. They're coming back down 75. They're headed up there now. They want a piece of that second home.
That's why, so we are a national lender, right? So we are licensed in all 50 states. I'm personally licensed in 15 or 16, I think, myself. But the reality is that Michigan is a great place to live because it is no longer seasonal. It's 365, but you literally can hop on 75, take a couple-hour drive, and then literally look at waters that looks like the Caribbean, like Torch Lake, Higgins Lake. So if you are looking for that second home, and if you're so inclined to be able to qualify for 2 homes, you do it now because they're not making more land, right?
Right, absolutely. And again, there's Michigan's a great place to live. I always joke with my wife because we love Florida, but again, you can go up north to the Torch area and be right on some of the most beautiful water. I love the 3 seasons, right? 4 season, I know some people absolutely love winter, but
I didn't like it until I started snowboarding, so I hear what you're saying there.
Yeah, you got to have fun with it. But no, I mean, we love Michigan. Even if we get another home somewhere else, we'll always live here.
All right, we'll help you with that place down in Florida. And anyone else out there listening, get
I don't know, the
pre-qual-
humidity is pretty similar to Florida around here right now today.
All right, just a couple other things, of course, Beck, we'll dive into quickly here, just some interest rate opportunities out there. Again, historically speaking, still on the lower side. Families have an opportunity to do some debt consolidation. Again, you might consolidate your debt and take this higher interest rate, Becky, but ultimately it'll save you money. And then we talk about it. You're not married to this mortgage. You're taking this mortgage now, and if things get better in the future, you have that opportunity to refinance.
Okay, so everyone, it's situational, and we're not advising, nor do we ever advise anyone using their home as a piggy bank. But the reality is that there was a lot of uncertainty over the last couple of years, and people got in some trouble. Not everyone was able to work remotely, and a lot of people out there, unfortunately, had to rack up their credit card debts to survive, to make their, their mortgage payments or to make their other assets, and they got in some trouble, and we're seeing that. So refinancing still does make sense for other, for some people. So the rate does, if it makes sense and the payments there, and you're saving $1,000. The reason why I'm throwing that out there is because I have someone right now that's in that situation where they got overextended. We're doing a refinance. We're still doing a 15-year. All of it, we're reducing their term, but they're still saving over $1,000 a month because they were so overextended, but they're in a better financial position right now. And when the opportunity arises again, we're going to look to possibly refinance them maybe in a shorter term should they be inclined to do so. But start the conversations. Everyone's situation, like I said, it's different, but it does make sense for some.
Jess, I'll let you get some last words in here. Other than the fact that if you're looking to sell your house, call Justin Ford at eXp Realty. I'll say it for you, Just. This guy's mellow, humble, knowledgeable. He's got what it takes to sell your house. He's got a great team at eXp Realty. Justin Ford. Little last words here, Just before we go away.
Where they can find you and where can they get your book, too?
Yeah, absolutely. You can actually go to Amazon right now and pre-order my book. It's Justin Ford Unleashed. You can also check out the Justin Ford Unleashed podcast on your favorite podcast platform. If you want more information about buying or selling, you can go to justinfordsells.com. We have a local team here in the Metro Detroit area, but we also have agents all across the country on our extended team, and so we can definitely help you either way, whether you're looking to buy or sell.
Yeah, so it's like you're looking for that one-stop shop, right? You want to make one phone call and, because you're not transactional, right? When someone's working with the Justin Ford team, you're a part of their family, and you're going to feel that. You're going to feel the difference. You're going to see the difference. You're going to hear that difference. So definitely reach out to them, because whether you're looking to buy here in any other state, they're going to get you connected with someone that's equally as powerful as Justin.
All right, get out there and enjoy your Saturday. Thanks for listening to the Hardcore Mortgage Real Estate Business Show. You can catch us at Capital Mortgage, 1-800-LOW-RATE, the best mortgage banker. I know Pat Caputo is coming up with sports. Quick thank you to Justin Ford, eXp Realty. We'll see you again, Just. That's for sure.
Thanks,
all right,
guys.
keep it here on 97.1 The Ticket. Catch you next Saturday.